and I've auditioned for a lot and haven't got a lot. And then Grant Torino came around where he was talking to me, was like this little role. Imagine auditioning for every single one of your father's movies and getting rejected every time. That's Scott Eastwood's reality. Even when Clint directed American Sniper, Scott didn't get the call. While his father won Academy Awards, Scott parked cars and mixed drinks to survive. He made more money bartending than acting. By 35, he was so burned by Hollywood that he considered becoming a firefighter. But the most shocking part isn't his career struggles. It's what happened when he finally stood up to his father. On March 21, 1986, Scott Clinton Reeves came into the world in Terry, California. His birth wasn't announced in headlines. It wasn't even openly acknowledged by his own father, Clint Eastwood. The time Clint was already a household name, directing and starring in hits like Pale Rider. But while he stood tall on red carpets, Scott's life was quietly beginning in the shadows of a scandal. His mother, Jaseline Reeves, worked as a flight attendant. She had met Clint during one of his many trips in the mid-1980s. What followed was a secret affair that lasted at least 3 years, during which Clint was publicly involved with another woman, actress Sandra Locke. Locke had no idea he was living a double life. She believed they were exclusive and only found out about Scott and his younger sister Catherine during a bitter lawsuit years later. When Scott was born, his birth certificate didn't carry the Eastwood name. He was listed as Scott Clinton Reeves, a quiet attempt to keep the affair under wraps. Catherine was born in 1988. By that time, the secret had stretched far enough that the truth couldn't be hidden forever. But Clint didn't acknowledge them publicly, and he certainly didn't raise them. Scott spent his early years in the quiet town of Carmel by the Sea, where Clint had once served as mayor. Yet the boy growing up there didn't live a celebrity life. His father might have been pulling in $15 million per film during the 90s, but Scott's world looked very different. When he was 10, Jaseline moved them to Hawaii. It wasn't just a change of scenery. It was an attempt to place thousands of miles between Scott and the Eastwood spotlight. There in modest surroundings, Scott lived a life his classmates never questioned. They didn't know he had a Hollywood father. And Clint, for the most part, stayed out of sight and out of reach. While Clint expanded his fortune with blockbuster films and new properties, Scott got by on Jaseline's flight attendant salary. He worked construction jobs as a teenager. He waited tables. When he went to college at Loyola Marymount University, it wasn't with the help of a trust fund. He paid his own way. Even while studying for a communications degree, he took acting classes, auditioned for bit parts, and kept using his birth name, Scott Reeves. He didn't want special treatment. He didn't want Clint's help, but the rejection came anyway. Scott later admitted that he auditioned for nearly every one of his father's films and was turned down each time. Clint refused to help. He didn't even cast Scott in major roles, even when he directed American Sniper, a film that grossed more than $547 million and earned 6 Oscar nominations. Scott wanted just one shot. He didn't get it. Clint's philosophy was simple. No handouts, no favors. You earn it yourself. That might sound admirable, but for Scott it meant years of working low-budget films, parking cars, and building houses while his father won Academy Awards. His earliest roles were almost invisible. In Flags of Our Fathers, 2006, directed by Clint, Scott had a tiny role as Private Roberto Lunsford. He was credited under the name Scott Reeves. No one knew he was Clint's son. He wanted it that way, but the cost was high. He missed the attention, the headlines, the momentum. In films like Pride and Player 5150, he was lost in the credits. These weren't just indie films. Some went straight to video. Others didn't play beyond a handful of theaters. He was stuck in a professional no man's land, working hard but getting nowhere. His family situation wasn't much easier. Clint Eastwood had 8 children with 6 different women. Scott was just one piece of that puzzle. His half-siblings included Lori, born in 1954 and given up for adoption; Kimber, born in 1964 to a stunt woman; Kylan; Allison, born during Clint's marriage to Maggie Johnson; Francesca, born in 1993, with actress Frances Pfizer; and Morgan, born in 1996 to news anchor Dina Ruiz. Some of these children grew up in wealth. Others, like Scott and Catherine, did not. Some didn't meet each other until adulthood. Family gatherings were awkward. Resentment simmered beneath the surface. During his teenage years in Hawaii, Scott struggled. He acted out. He was suspended for fighting. He had what he later called anger issues. He knew who his father was but couldn't talk about. Couldn't ask why he was absent. Couldn't explain to anyone why he felt both important and invisible. When they returned to California in 2000, he enrolled in Carmel High. Slowly the truth began to leak out. Some classmates treated him like royalty. Others mocked him. He considered keeping the name Reeves forever just to escape the comparisons. By college he was done hiding, but he still refused to rely on Clint's power. He applied for financial aid. He worked long hours. He auditioned for roles that paid next to nothing. And then something began to shift. In 2009, Scott landed a role in Invictus. It was another Clint Eastwood film, but this time Scott used his real last name. The film was about proving yourself under pressure. It was about fighting to be taken seriously, and that's exactly what Scott was doing. Just 26, Scott Eastwood took a massive risk. He signed a contract for not one, but 3 horror films. His role in Texas Chainsaw 3D would have locked him into a trilogy, and nobody even knew his real name. He was still going by Scott Reeves to avoid being labeled as Clint.